Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it is time for the 20th edition of Rapid Fire Reviews, and the first Rapid Fire Review video of 2018. Now, this is a series where I go in and do little miniature reviews of different albums and EPs that I either didn't get enough time to record full reviews of, or I wanted to do full reviews of, and then it just, like, I didn't have enough to say about them, I guess. I usually kind of collect and stockpile these albums and EPs until I get to a point where I feel like I can have a whole video's worth of content. So yeah, now just seemed like a really good time to throw one of these videos together. There are certain albums and EPs that you guys have been really persistent about that I personally don't feel inclined to doing full reviews of, so I felt the need to do this video sooner than later. So I guess without any further ado, let's get into some rapid fire reviews. This first one over here, Meeting Room and Rare Plants, actually came out about 6 months ago. I found it through the Needle Drop's It Came From Bandcamp series, and needless to say, it's probably my favorite album that has come out of that series. I personally really enjoy this one. It might not be for everyone. I mean, it's really noisy, really experimental kind of electronic music, and if you're not into that stuff, I can't expect you'll enjoy this album. But if you do like that really kind of experimental stuff, I think you're gonna like this album a lot. There's a lot of elements to really enjoy from it. I ordered the CD recently, and I'm personally very excited for it to come in. Another one from 2017 that I felt like I needed to mention is this new EP from San Holo called The Trip. It's a short and sweet little 5-track EP that San Holo did actually for free, which is respectable. Although there are really only 3 new songs here from San Holo, because one of the songs is just a cover of B song by Analog Deer, and then the final track, track number 5, TY, which I'm presumably stands for thank you, is just a little short sound clip and nothing more than that. But I'm not going to complain about 3 new San Holo songs, especially when a large majority of the kind of sounds in these 3 songs are pretty experimental for San Holo standards. I didn't necessarily love any of these songs, and I didn't really feel as emotionally connected to really the content on this EP as much as some of San Holo's past work, but I think it's still a solid little collection, and of course it's free, so no complaints. I personally was really anticipating this new Rameses B album, especially because I was such a big fan of his Reborn LP that came out a few years ago, and leading up to the LP's release, I also really liked the kind of theme he was going for with the, you know, solar system kind of spacey theme. As usual though, with down-tempo, ambient, and chill-out electronic music, criticism doesn't really come that naturally to me. I can say there are some really soothing chord progressions here, and also the atmospheres of some of the tracks on this album are just absolutely nuts. Like, I really felt drawn in to a lot of the tracks on this album. Do I personally think this tops, like, BT's last album though? No, not really. I really love Exist Strategy when he's paired with Mr. Fiji Ouija. I especially love their song Drunkard that they did together a little while ago, but I have a much harder time getting into his solo music, and basically for the same reasons as that Rameses B album. It's down-tempo music. There's really no easy way to criticize it. This EP doesn't necessarily do anything that crazy or off the wall, but it's, you know, soothing enough. Then there's this new Lookas EP on Monstercat, and I can say this EP was just a little bit of a disappointment. Lookas had said that Lucid was going to be a visual EP, and I really don't think that ever really hit its full potential with the visuals that we got on the Monstercat channel. And more so than being visual, I think this EP's theme ended up just being really disappointing drops. Like, outside the drops, I think this EP has a lot going for it. I really liked a lot of the work that was going on here, like Eclipse. I think the intro's pretty epic. The track with Cruella, Alarm, I really like the vocals on that one and the acoustic guitar work that's going into it. And I'd say I generally do like On My Own a lot in terms of the kind of R&B beat it has, the vocals from Abel Hart, and then I've kind of gotten more used to the drop, even though that's probably my least favorite part of the song that's going on, just because I feel like it's a little disconnected from everything else that's happening in the track. But I think the drops really do serve as Lukas's weak point. here. They're not really that wild or complex or impactful or really that melodic either. They're just kind of flat, and that makes it really hard for me to enjoy this EP as a whole. Another chill album. This one by Lane 8, A Little by Little, is a little bit different though. I'd say it's more progressive house than the other two are. I think there's some fairly masterful production that goes on across this LP, even if, you know, the melodies do get a little bit tiring after a while. I would not completely knock this album. In fact, I'd probably suggest it to anyone who's a fan of Nigel Good's Space Cadet LP. I think you'll really like this album. And I'm gonna leave it at that. So many of you have been requesting that I review this EP, and I get it. You know, Virtual Riot's a really talented guy. I have endless respect for him when it comes to the sound design department and what he does in his field, but personally, like, sound design in electronic dance music is not my #1 priority. At least when it comes to my end, the criticism, I think composition and overall production is a lot more important than designing your own sounds. The fact of the matter is, most of the rhythms and the beats on this EP just really are not that unique. They really, to me, don't stand out from a lot of the other rhythm that has come out in the last year or two. And like I said, that doesn't take away from the fact that Virtual Riot is still an insanely talented sound designer. I'm not trying to say he isn't. Rhythmically, though, most of the content on this EP just doesn't really stand out to me. That being said, I did like the tracks Jump the Gun and The Darkest Night quite a bit. This Keys and Krates album here ended up actually really surprising me, mostly because I didn't expect it to be so heavily rooted in hip-hop as it is. And this was a pleasant surprise, even if I didn't enjoy this album as much as some of Keys and Krates' contemporaries like Troy Boy. His album was really fun. I don't personally love it, but you might, so why not check it out? This new Dirty South album over here, either XV or 15, I'm not entirely sure how that's supposed to be pronounced, but it actually came as a really pleasant surprise. I had no idea this album was coming, and when it actually came out, I was very excited with the result. If you're into that like 2009, 2010 style of progressive house that was gaining a lot of steam before Big Room came on the scene, I think you'll like this album a lot. Personally, I really enjoy this one. I found it to be extremely refreshing here in 2018 and also pretty relaxing too. I would really like to see this one get some more attention, so guys, for the love of God, check this one out. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I honestly can't remember the last time I liked the soundtrack this much. When I found out that this album was essentially curated by Kendrick Lamar and Top Dog Entertainment, I knew it was going to be good, but nobody ever told me that Kendrick Lamar was literally going to have an appearance on every single track on this album. Like, some of his parts on this album that are uncredited end up being more prevalent than the main artists of each particular track, and that's just absolutely crazy to me. But I think in general, this track list is just pure fire. I also don't typically get too excited about superhero movies, but I am actually really stoked to see what Marvel brings to the table with Black Panther. I've heard from a lot of critics and fans alike that it's really good, so I'm super stoked to see it. While I don't think this new Mija EP is absolutely spectacular, I do think it is a step up from her EDM stuff, which I honestly didn't think was really that great. This new sound seems to come to her a little bit more naturally and sounds a lot less forced than her previous work, and I think this could be a great new direction for Mija. I'm excited to see where she goes next, although I would like to see some of the more detailed textures she uses on this EP kind of make their way over into EDM songs perhaps, and I think that could be something really cool. I'd like to see her do that, but you know, if she sticks in this vein, I won't be too disappointed. The dudes that did Electric Feel and Kids back in the day also have a new album out called Little Dark Age, and it's actually pretty good. I went up to the record store the other day and picked up a copy of this because I do like this album a lot. It's some really like dark, kind of twisted synth pop, but it does have some kind of bright humor throughout it, and I personally really enjoyed this album. I think it's a synth pop essential, especially when it comes to like 2018 and 2017 styles of that. I think there are definitely some jams on this EP, although in terms of like uniqueness and compellingness, I really don't think the stuff on this EP in particular really compares to the stuff Oliver was doing when he was just Tree. This isn't something that I can see myself really going back to a lot. That's just personal taste. I actually really enjoy this new direction that the Nicholas is going in. He seems to be kind of riding off the style that he created with the song Favor, which was on Bitbird's last Goldie and Finch compilation, but I'm totally okay with that because I absolutely love that track. It's this really unique brand of R&B that seems to take a lot of influence from like lo-fi hip-hop. In fact, I'd probably call the style of this EP like lo-fi R&B. It almost sounds like you're listening to it on like a VHS tape or something, like with the effects that the Nicholas is using on it. And I really enjoy the content of this EP a lot, and I'm interested to see how he progresses from here, because prior to Favor, I didn't really enjoy him outside of like the stuff that he was doing with San Holo. And that's about all for this edition of Rapid Fire Reviews. As always, I really do hope you guys enjoy these kind of videos. It's really nice to be able to not have to go in and do full reviews of all this stuff, because there are certain albums and EPs that it's just difficult for me to do, and I end up stressing myself out more and not really making sense in my review. So it's really nice to just give a little quick blurb in a video like this. As always, if there are any of the albums and EPs that I talked about in this video that you do want to go check out for yourself, I do have those Spotify links down in the description below, so you can go check any of them out, and there are definitely some in here that I would suggest you do, although I'm not going to list them right now. You should definitely like skim through them at least. Anyway, I'm Landon Remixes, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.